Hi creatives, today we are back creating a brand all the way from scratch, and this one's going to be a really fun one because it's a dynamic brand for a law firm that's a charity that works with children and teens. It's going to be really colorful and playful, but it's still going to be really appropriate for a lawyer. And I wanted to do this brand specifically because I wanted to show how, even though it's a very corporate industry, we can still do something that is really unique and special. So here's the brief. The company is called Open Path, and they offer free legal advice for young people who experience a difficult situation and need support. The current brand is really traditional, and they feel like they're just not appealing to that audience of young people. They want a new identity that feels really engaging, that feels safe, and that is targeting those 8 to 18-year-olds that they're trying to help. At the same time, the brand still needs to feel appropriate for donors and partners that are still expecting something that looks like a law firm. If you watch my other branding videos, you might know the drill by now, so the very first step is to do brand research. In this brand research, I want to answer 3 different questions. The first one is, how are other lawyers who help kids using branding to get their message across? Essentially, competitor research. My second question is, what are brands in other industries who appeal to the same age group doing to build trust and create optimism? And finally, we want to find some inspiration that can help us create that balance between serious lawyer and engaging and optimistic. Normally, I also include a lot of social media research and looking at testimonials and how people are describing their problems. But in this case, because it's quite a sensitive topic and young people, that might not be something people are openly commenting about. So we're actually going to skip that section today. So let's start with the competitor websites. What I'm noticing when I look around is just how much information there is for someone to take in when they look at any of these websites. I imagine that the person looking might feel really nervous about maybe visiting the website, and they want to find a lot of information that they need quickly. Some sites actually have an escape button so that if a person is searching, they can quickly close the window if someone comes into the room that they don't want to see what they're doing. And I think that could be a really smart idea. Some good things I've noticed on some of these competitor websites are a lot of testimonials, which I think is a really good way to show that you understand the problems and that the people who are searching are not alone. And I also like how some of the sites use questions and problems that kids might face as a way to kind of navigate. I think that feels really smart. I think overall we want to make sure that the messaging is really friendly and that we're using specific situations that kids experience as the kickoff point. Next up, I want to answer question 2, which is how other brands with the same audience are using branding. If we look at brands like Fortnite and Urban Outfitters, for example, they both appeal to young people, but they have very different products. We can see a lot of bolder colors and a lot of return to kind of retro elements. There's a lot of colors that work together to create one design, and designs that feel playful and dynamic. A little bit unexpected, I think, is a big trend. And this is something that we're seeing with a lot of design trends overall. We're seeing a lot of 90s themes, even 80s themes, and a lot of things that are kind of anti-design, that are super busy and quite interesting, but not something we would have done maybe in the mid-2000s. And that brings us to question 3, which is how to create this balance between the more inviting, safe, and optimistic side of it that appeals to younger people and the kind of lawyer, more serious side. For this, I like to take some time to just go to lots of inspiration sites like Pinterest, Dribbble, and Behance, for example, and just search around for what other brands are doing. And I try to not be too specific with this one industry because I don't want something that is too similar to what I'm going to be creating. So I'm more trying to just take in lots of information, and as I'm finding things that I like, I put them into a board in Mila Notes. And this way it's super easy for me to reference when I want to go back and look at something when I'm creating concepts. I'm really drawn to dynamic brands that can use photo cutouts and patterns, and I think it might be a nice way to combine more impactful graphics with a more pared back overall design. So now that we have a little bit more information, we can start creating some sketches. Because the name is Open Path, I wanted to find a way to use the logo to show what is possible if you get support. This puts the focus on the positive outcomes rather than the problems that someone might be having. I tried quite a lot of different ways to show something being revealed, and I was inspired by a concept that I created for a client that wasn't chosen, where we used the logo to reveal a life that is more colorful. The idea I ended up liking the best was this one. The idea is inspired by these scratching sheets that existed when I was a kid, where you could scratch off the top and reveal a design underneath. I really like the idea of it feeling very hand-drawn because it just gives it a little bit more warmth. The challenge here was to make sure that it was still solid enough to work as an icon, that it didn't get too messy at small scales, for example. Next up, I wanted to find a font that would feel friendly and still trustworthy, and I ended up using Futura because it feels really established and solid, but still has more of a modern, but at the same time a retro aesthetic, so I think it would be a really good fit. I also cut out the O from the shape to build more connection between the name and the icon. So now that we have the mark down, I want to explore different colors. And here, because they have so many different programs and different ages, I wanted to have a range of colors so that some of them could feel younger and more playful, and some of them could feel a little bit more serious. When I pick colors, I often find one color that I really like, and then I use this as my kickoff point. In this case, I wanted all of the primary shades to feel like they were equally bright, and I ended up with these four. Now that we have the base, I want to add 1 or 2 lighter shades to use as backgrounds, and one darker shade for places like footers and when we just want a little bit more of a serious looking design. I decided to go with this lighter shade of yellow, and I also have a lighter and a darker shade of the blue. I think this combination feels really friendly and it has a lot of flexibility. With colors and design in general, sometimes you just need to look at everything together and make some tweaks until you feel happy. In this case, I feel like I needed the colors to be a little bit less vibrant so that we're still hitting that balance between positive and trustworthy. Now it's time to get dynamic with this brand and start creating some really flexible ways to use it. I went to Pexels and Unsplash to find some nice photos of kids, and I used the different shapes that I created when I was experimenting with the shape of the logo to cut them out. Having this bank of shapes rather than just the logo shape makes it a lot easier to actually use the brand in different situations. I also wanted to take this idea of the scratch and drawing a little bit further, so I went into Procreate and I created this line drawing inside of the shape. This way we can layer photography and more illustrated graphics, and we can up or down the level of playfulness. I also wanted to make sure that we have icons that work well with the style, and since we already have so much color, I created them in black outline with a brush that has some texture, so it feels really inviting. The last thing I did was to create social media templates for Canva and put everything together in a presentation just like I would do if this was a real client. And here's what it ended up looking like. I hope you were also super inspired by this colorful brand. I had so much fun creating it. I would love to hear your feedback on what type of business you'd like me to create a brand for next time. And I also would love to hear how you would have designed it. What kind of focus would you have put to find that balance between playfulness and seriousness? And how do you approach those types of challenges in your own business? If you want to watch more videos like this where I create a brand from scratch, I'm going to put a playlist here on the screen so you can watch all of my videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your projects and see you next time.